You think you're in control. You think your decisions are conscious, your path self-directed, your identity chosen. But deep down, something else is pulling the strings, something unspoken, something unseen. It shows up in the way you overreact to simple things, in the way you lash out, then apologize, in the people you can't stand, the habits you can't break, the fears you can't name. It whispers when you're alone. It hijacks your calm in traffic, in relationships, in the moments that matter most. And the worst part, you don't even realize it's there. Because it wears your face. It speaks in your voice. It's the version of you pretend doesn't exist. Carl Jung had a name for it. He called it the shadow. The parts of you reject. The traits you were told were wrong. The feelings you learned were too much. The desires you buried so deep, you forgot they ever belonged to you. But they didn't disappear. They grew in silence, in secrecy, in shame, because whatever you suppress, you give power, and whatever you deny starts to define you. Not consciously, not obviously, but subtly in the choices you regret, the things you fear, the people you attract, the chaos you can't seem to escape. You suppress anger, and it explodes when you least expect it. You suppress fear, and it shapes every decision you make. You suppress grief, and it eats away at your joy from underneath. You become what you suppress, not because you want to, but because the shadow you ignore becomes the driver of your life. And the longer you pretend it's not there, the more it controls everything. So no, you're not broken, you're not weak, you're not failing at life. You're just fragmented. You're trying to succeed while rejecting the very parts of yourself that hold your power, and power never disappears. It only changes form. Repressed rage becomes sarcasm. Unfelt pain becomes apathy. Denied vulnerability becomes control. The shadow doesn't go away just because you close your eyes. It waits. It watches. It gets stronger in the silence until one day your life no longer feels like yours, because it isn't. It belongs to the part of you that's been running the show from the dark. So what do? You stop pretending. You stop performing. You stop acting like peace is possible while you're still at war with yourself. You turn inward. You face the thing you feared. You open the door you locked a lifetime ago. And when you do, you find out it was never a monster. It was you, the real you, the unfiltered, untamed, unapologetic version. The one who stopped trusting the world when the world taught you to edit yourself just to survive. That version didn't disappear. It became your shadow, and it's been screaming for your attention ever since. Not to hurt you, but to remind you of what you gave up, your boundaries, your fire, your voice, your depth. Because your shadow doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to rejoin you, and until it does, it will keep sabotaging every surface-level version of your success. Not out of spite, but out of loyalty to your truth, because the shadow's job isn't to protect your ego, it's to protect your soul. You suppress your pain and it leaks into your peace. You suppress your truth and it warps your voice. You suppress your fear and it builds a life around avoiding risk, not chasing purpose. And one day you wake up surrounded by everything you thought you wanted, but feel empty, disconnected, unfulfilled. Because the version of you that built this life wasn't whole, it was edited, and an edited life can't satisfy a soul that was born to be free. You can't build something real while pretending. Pretending to be fine, pretending to be over it, pretending that if you just work hard enough, succeed fast enough, smile wide enough, the cracks won't show. But they do. They show in your relationships, in the way you self-sabotage right before things get good, in the way you stay busy so you don't have to feel, in the way you lash out then apologize, not because you were wrong, but because you don't know where the outburst came from. You call it stress, you call it mood swings, but it's your shadow screaming for a seat at the table. And until you stop exiling those parts of yourself, they will keep revolting. not because they're trying to ruin your life, but because they're trying to reunite with you. You think your shame is a flaw. It's a flare. It's saying, here lies a piece of yourself that never got to heal. You think your anger is toxic. Maybe, but maybe it's also your protector. Maybe it's been holding a line that no one else would defend for you. You think your envy is ugly, but what if it's your genius pointing out where your gifts were left unlived? The truth is, whatever you suppress owns you, but whatever you face, you can free. Because you cannot be fully alive while cutting off parts of yourself. That's not strength, that's survival. And survival is noble, but it's not a life. You weren't meant to just get through life. You were meant to expand into it, to breathe fully, to speak clearly, to move boldly, not because you've mastered your shadow, but because you finally embraced it. This is the work, not self-improvement, self-integration. You don't need more hacks, more habits, more hustle. You need to look yourself in the mirror and say, I will no longer abandon any part of me to make others comfortable. That's the real freedom. The kind they don't sell you. The kind you can't fake. The kind that only comes when you finally decide to stop running. You want your power back. You're going to have to walk into the room where you left it. The room marked grief. The room marked shame. The room marked the conversation I've never had. And you won't walk in as a victim. You'll walk in as a warrior, not with armor, but with presence. Because when you show up whole, everything changes. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for your fire. You stop tolerating what you used to, just to keep the peace. And when that happens, your shadow doesn't disappear. It bows because it no longer needs to fight for your attention. You've given it what it always wanted. To be seen, to be heard, to be home. You have no idea how powerful you are, because you've only ever met half of yourself. You know your discipline, you know your intellect, you know how to survive. But do you know your rage? Do you know your wildness? Do you know the part of you that refuses to be tamed? That part isn't your enemy, it's your engine. But you've been taught to fear it, to label it too much, to call it weakness. Sin, chaos, instability. But what if it's the real you trying to rise? You can't evolve while rejecting the very instincts that are trying to guide you. You can't lead while lying to yourself. You can't inspire while holding your breath to keep others comfortable. You want real clarity. Sit with the version of you that you've silenced, the one who screams when you stay in dead relationships, the one who cries when you abandon your art, the one who panics when you lie about what you want. You've tried to bury that voice. You've medicated it. You've busied yourself to drown it out. You've called it drama, but it's your truth, and no amount of achievement will ever replace it. Because your soul doesn't care about your resume. It wants resonance. It wants to feel whole again. It wants to stop living like a ghost in someone else's success story. You think becoming who you are is about building something. It's not. It's about returning to what you never stopped being underneath all the edits, because what you suppress doesn't just haunt you, it becomes you. Your anxiety might be the voice you never let speak. Your procrastination might be rebellion against a path you never chose. Your burnout might be your soul screaming that it can't keep faking it. Your symptoms are signals, but you've been taught to silence the alarm instead of fighting the fire. And the fire, it's holy. It's the part of you that refuses to settle. It's the part of you that knows this isn't what you came here for. You didn't come here to hide. You didn't come here to be half alive. You didn't come here to spend your life trying to be good in a system that punishes your greatness. You came here to wake up, to become aware of every part of you, even the parts that scare you, especially the parts that scare you, because that's where your power lives. And once you meet those parts with curiosity instead of shame, they stop controlling you. Your fear becomes precision. Your anger becomes fuel. Your sadness becomes depth. Your envy becomes direction. Everything you've been taught to suppress becomes the map back to yourself. But first you have to choose honesty. You have to stop betraying your own knowing just to keep your image clean. You have to stop outsourcing your truth to people who don't even know themselves. You have to stop chasing light just because you were taught that darkness means failure. Darkness doesn't mean failure. It means you're in the soil. It means you're becoming, and becoming is messy. It's loud. It's emotional. It's human. That's the part most people run from, but you're still here. Reading these words, feeling the burn, letting the mirror show you what you've refused to face, that takes courage. The real kind. The kind that doesn't post quotes but lives the work. The kind that says, I'm ready to stop performing wholeness and actually start healing. Because healing doesn't mean fixing yourself. It means facing yourself. Fully, bravely, relentlessly. And when you do, you stop leaking energy. You stop seeking validation. You stop settling for fragments of love and start demanding alignment. Not from arrogance, but from honor. Because you've remembered who you are. And once you do, you'll never betray that self again. You spent your whole life trying to be good, but good was never the goal. Whole was, and wholeness isn't clean. It's not quiet. It's not always pretty. It's not what gets you praise, but it's what gives you peace. Because once you've met yourself in the dark, you stop fearing what's there. You realize the monster under the bed was your inner child just trying to be heard. You realize the rage you silenced was the boundary you never set. You realize the guilt you carried wasn't yours to hold. And suddenly, you stop running from your past, from your emotions, from your story, from yourself. And in that stillness, in that pause, you finally hear it. The voice that was buried beneath all the noise. The one that's been waiting to say, I'm still here, and I never needed to be perfect. I just needed to be free. That's the moment everything shifts. Not because the pain disappears, not because you figured it all out, but because you've remembered what power actually feels like. It doesn't feel like control. It feels like clarity. It feels like standing in a storm and knowing you won't break. It feels like walking into a room and not needing to perform. It feels like telling the truth, even when your voice shakes. That's real power. And when you live from that place, you stop being reactive. You stop playing roles. You stop becoming what the world told you to be. Instead, you become the one who chooses. You choose what stays. You choose what ends. You choose what aligns and let go of everything that doesn't. You stop living by suppression and start living by integration. Because here's the truth. You don't need to kill your shadow. You need to honor it. You don't need to control your emotions. You need to feel them. You don't need to fear your past. You need to reclaim it. This is how you get your life back. You stop handing the wheel to the parts of you that were exiled, and instead, you sit at the head of the table with every part of you seated in dignity. Not silenced, not shamed, seen. Because when your shadow is seen, it stops screaming. When your pain is seen, it starts healing. When your truth is spoken, your power comes home. That's when you realize you don't need to be more likable. You need to be more honest. You don't need to be more impressive. You need to be more integrated. You don't need to suppress anything else. You just need to stop hiding, because your shadow never meant to harm you. It only ever wanted one thing: to protect the parts of you this world told were too much. Your wildness, your brilliance, your rebellion, your art, your sensitivity, your voice, your knowing. And now it's your job not to suppress those parts, but to lead with them. You've already tried being small. You've already tried being safe. You've already tried being silent. Now try being whole, because once you become whole, you no longer become what you suppress. You become what you accept, what you embody, what you are. And that version of you, that integrated, unapologetic, emotionally honest, soul-on-fire version of you, that's the one who's going to change everything, because you're not just healing for you. You're healing for everyone who was told to hide. You're becoming the example they've never seen. A person who isn't afraid to live all the way out loud. A person who knows shadow is not shame. It's signal, it's strength, it's sacred. So let this be your rebellion. Not with rage, with wholeness. You are no longer afraid of your own depth. You are no longer owned by what you buried. You are no longer controlled by your shadow. Because now you walk beside it, and together you rise. You don't heal by suppressing your darkness. You heal by integrating it. Your shadow is not your weakness. It is your wisdom waiting to be reclaimed. And the moment you stop hiding, you stop being controlled by the parts of you fear, and you start being guided by the parts of you that know you become powerful the moment you become whole.